Welcome to the ParentNet podcast by Focus on the Family Singapore. In each episode, we will be speaking with everyday parents and practitioners as they share with us gems from their parenthood journey. Keep tuning in to learn with us as we figure it out together.
Hello and welcome to the ParentNet podcast. My name is June and I'm your host for this episode. Letting go of control over our teens is a very critical topic that many parents grapple with. Whether it's allowing them more independence, trusting their decisions, finding the right balance can be a challenge. In today's episode, we explore how to release your need for control over your child's life. If you're a parent navigating this delicate balance of guiding your teens without stifling their growth, this episode is for you. Joining me today is Pamela Tan, mother of 3 children aged 14 to 17. Welcome to the ParentNet podcast, Pam, and thank you for joining us today. Would you like to just start by giving us a short introduction about yourself and your family?
Hi June, hi everybody. My name is Pamela. I've been married to my husband of 19 years and we have 3 children. Isaac is the oldest at 17 and I have a pair of twins who are 14, Asher and Shauna. So actually this year I just rejoined the workforce after 10 years of not having a full-time job. It has been my joy and privilege to be able to be at home when my children come home from school all this past 10 years. My husband has been very supportive and we both agree that this starting few years of our children's lives are actually the most important. For it is during this time that they, being our captive audience, we have to make use of our first mover advantage to build a strong foundation of love, respect, and faith with them. So this first 12 years is the perfect time to establish good habits and inculcate a strong value system in their lives. Because, in Singapore, by the time after PSLE and then when they go to secondary school, that's when they get their mobile phones. And that also coincides with the time when they are going through puberty. So during puberty, their brains are not fully formed yet. Their prefrontal cortex doesn't get fully formed in their 20s and their bodies are in a constant hormonal flux. They are actually chemically imbalanced people walking around, Even though they look very tall and they are like, taller than you and me and they look so big and they look like adults. But actually, internally, they are still very young. They're still very inexperienced. And so we parents sometimes tend to forget that we have 40 years of living through life, of making mistakes. And how do we get through all that? We pick ourselves up and move on. Our children, they are still growing. They're not fully formed yet. So give them time, right? Because in their internal chemistry is very volatile right now. So their behavior can be extreme. Their mood can swing very quickly.
Tell me about it. I have a teen at home.
Yes, I'm feeling it every day as well, right? So the main thing to remember is parents, don't take it personally. Sometimes we may feel so angry and so frustrated that we feel like these teens have something against us and that they're doing some things on purpose. But you know what? Actually, it's not. It could be that they're really confused. They have too many sensory input. They don't know how to prioritize. They feel their emotions very strongly. And then there are too many things going on in their minds, on their lives. And if we think that, these young people, they are so self-absorbed. And actually it is true because there's so much going on that we can't see. We only look at their face and we see their stony faces and their cold behavior. But actually inside them, it's all a turmoil.
Wow. Thank you, Pam. I can really feel where you're at and, the challenge of raising teens at this stage of life. And also thank you for bringing us through the past 10, 12 years, when you were actually staying home and very present with them. You talked about building up habits. And I'm sure some of those habits included giving them a little bit of independence, giving them a little bit of trust, letting them take responsibility over their schoolwork or over their own things, right? So that must have been quite a journey for you, like you said, building foundations. So now you're in a very interesting phase of life. You said you just transited back to the workforce. How has that been like for you? Have you sort of seen instances where your kids had to pick up more control, more independence over their lives, and you also had to let go? What was that like for you?
Yes, so the thing, right, in this past 12 years, we try to inculcate good habits and everything good that we can try and download onto them, and we hope that it takes effect immediately. But it doesn't work that way. You think of it, we are like planters, okay? You plant a seed, and then you pray and hope it'll grow, and then you nurture it. When the conditions are right, they do grow. But we have to be patient. We need to be patient because everybody grows at a different phase, a different time. So I have had my frustrations as well. But the thing is, we forget that even we as adults, sometimes we know, right? I know that I shouldn't be eating so much ice cream. I know I should be exercising more. But do I do it? Do I exercise every day? We don't. So there are things that we know that we should do, but in action, we may not always follow through. But it makes parents frustrated. And then we say, don't you know that you should do this? And then they say, we know, I know already, stop saying. And you know what? They really know, they actually do. So I have to control myself. I have to tell myself that actually what needs to be said has already been said many times. I've said it many times. My husband has said it many times. The children know. So now sometimes even before we say something, then they're like, yeah, I know, I should have done this, I should have done that. So sometimes we have to take a step back to allow them to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And we have to be aware that it is not fatal. Most mistakes are not fatal. That they can just learn and improve themselves and move on, which is actually more important because it teaches them to be resilient, that they have to take control of their own life. They have to learn and move on.
Could you share with us one instance when you let your child take charge of, let's say, his or her homework or his or her exams, and then maybe they kind of stumbled? Can you recall one example so that our listeners can know what the process is like for the child and also for the parent?
One of the things that I was very concerned when Isaac first entered secondary school was that he started to play computer games a lot through friends' influence, and then they are like, hey, play this and all that. And he's like, yeah. I have come to learn about my child and realized that he's quite a social being, so he enjoys being with his friends. And it didn't help that when he started Sec 1, it was COVID year 2020. So in school, they could not socialize. There was the whole circuit breaker period where there was no school and they had to stay home and all that. And so it took me a while to realize that, hey, actually, when he is playing computer games, he is actually communicating with his friends. That's their way of communication. That's their way of spending time together. And this is very different from our time. Way back in our time, there was no such thing, no internet. When we were teens, all we had was the telephone. And then I recall the times when I would be on the telephone all day long, right?
And your parents will be scolding you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because no one else can call it at home.
That's right. So we were hogging the phone line. Nobody could call in, right? And then we would get into trouble for that. And the thing is, I look back and I think, how would I like it if my parents had stopped me from talking to my friends? I wouldn't like it. So back then, during circuit breaker, during the COVID period, I realized that it was important that he continue to communicate with his friends.
And this was through games.
And this was through playing computer games because on the side, they would be talking through a Discord app where they would talk to their friends. Yeah, it was quite amusing. They would be like, hey, the shooter is behind you. Shoot him. Yeah, okay, get him. Hey, so what do you have for dinner? Like, so when he turned around and had some dinner himself, I said, so what is your friend having for dinner? So it was very amusing to
It's
hear.
like a mix of live and then game and then live and then game, right?
Yeah, that's
seamlessly.
right. And this is how this new generation seem to work. They seem to blend it very seamlessly. So together with this issue was my other concern. What if he gets addicted playing computer games?
That's a really real concern in today's age.
Exactly. So I chose the path of education. I chose to educate him and I chose to tell him about the pitfalls of addiction and how it can be harmful in many ways. I would tell him what addiction looks like and the consequences it can have and reminded him not to play too much. But one thing I did not do was that I did not put a limit on him.
Okay.
I resisted doing that because before he got his phone, before he had all these computer games to play, I did talk to other friends to find out. Some people had contracts, telephone contracts where there would be a phone, a time limit and things like that, which sounded fine and good. But then I also heard the flip side of it, where cases of children, teens, who jailbreak, right? They learn to break the controls, they learn to hide and sneak around. They go to their friend's house, or they hide in the toilet, or they get up in the middle of the night just to have more screen time. Yeah, and that to me was very disturbing because it shows a lack of trust between parent and child. And it also made me think that I am behaving in a way to make him behave in such a manner. And he is only behaving in such a way because he's reacting to me. So it is very real that our actions have an impact on how our children react to us. If I am super strict on him, I can imagine he might cheat or lie or I don't know, do what, right? And I don't want it to go that way.
Right.
Because I have heard that it can, and that disturbs me. So I chose the method of being open with him, being honest. I educate him about addiction and I explain to him why it is not healthy. I try and encourage him to control himself. I encourage him to engage in other hobbies, things that he was interested in before. Because I do tell him, I said, if you cannot control yourself, then I have to do my job as your mommy to control you. And I don't want to control you. I would rather you control yourself.
How did that turn out for Isaac?
It was a long journey. And in the beginning, I must admit, I kind of panicked and I started reading up online about addiction and I was so worried. I was telling my husband, oh no, how he's going to be addicted. And my husband was very calm and he told me, he will figure it out, okay? Give him time. And it was true. There came a day when suddenly his playing time dropped by 90%, just out of the blue.
Was it because he realized that he wasn't catching up with his schoolwork?
I think it was a mixture of factors.
Okay.
I think perhaps, yes, school got a bit more demanding, so he needed to pay a bit more attention to that. If you restrict them too much, you control them too much, it becomes a forbidden fruit and it becomes all the more sweeter. And then they lust after it, right? But once he has had his fill, he has played it, and then to him, it's no big deal. And I've always told him, you can let me know if you need more time. If your friend it can only come on at a certain time, you need more time, then we can talk about it, we can discuss.
So do you feel like during this process, you kind of stepped away and that was hard for you and you shared all the emotions, right, of worry and concerns about your child getting addicted? Do you feel like you stepped away and learned to be more of a coach at the sidelines rather than a micromanager whereby, you're counting how much time have you spent on your game today and things like that?
Yes, totally. I had a whole logbook and wrote down exactly how many minutes they spend. I tried to have an exchange where how many questions you do or how many papers you do equals how many minutes. I've been through all that and done that. And it's so tedious. And it's a matter of trust, right? Sometimes they say they do it, but then if they never do it properly, then how, right? So there was a lot of issues and it was just not very savory, not very nice. So one thing, in order to be a coach, you need to empathise. You need to put yourself in his shoes. If you are playing a game halfway, would you want to be stopped?
Of course not.
Of course not. So it's the same thing for him. So the first step we as parents have to do is we should empathise. Think back to when we were children, when we were teens. How does it feel? And then put ourselves in his position. So it's the same thing with computer games, the same thing with phones. I try to share with him how I try to limit myself. Because I find that I myself am, there are some games that are just so addictive, right? You just keep playing them, one more round, and then you just keep playing. So I will share how, mommy is getting addicted to this game. I think I better put a timer so that when the timer rings, I should stop this and quickly go and make your dinner. If not, you have no dinner to eat.
This
right?
is a bit of a role modeling where you sort of comment on your own behavior and make it explicit for your child, right? So that they learn as well.
Yes.
Just seeing how you respond to something very tempting and very addictive.
Yes, and also it serves the purpose that you are not pointing fingers at him. He gets very defensive and he gets very upset because you are accusing him. But when you turn the matters onto yourself and you role model and you say, oh dear, I think I better finish this lot of clothes first. Then I can play one round of this game. Or even, I think all these methods is not working. I think I must delete this app for a while. I think maybe, for my Lenten sacrifice, I shall delete off this app and only after Easter then I install. That is another option. So you can find different ways to lead by example.
Right.
And more importantly, this is actually teaching him skills to self-manage. Because at the back of my mind, you're right, I'm thinking, oh no, if he doesn't learn to manage himself, when I go back to work, who is going to eyeball him? So the only way that can be settled is that he self-manage. And to do that, it is not by us forcing him to self-manage, but that he learn the skills to self-manage. And who better people to teach them but us parents?
So what I'm hearing is there's a lot of empathy and putting yourself in your child's shoes and also understanding things from their point of view. So maybe when it comes to schoolwork, they may choose to handle it in a certain way. Some kids love to do it all at once. Some actually spread it all out. And there's no right or wrong. So it really depends on how your child plans for himself. And that's also, I guess, a part of us learning to step back and then let them take over that little bit of control. I must say though that for Isaac to learn all of that, to self-manage, especially when it comes to something so addictive like games, you must have done a pretty good job in the first 10, 12 years of his life, such that he knows how to choose the right thing and he knows that school is important at the end of the day. So what if for a parent who has not been able to be with the child as much, then maybe letting go completely could mean losing complete control over the child, right? So I guess it's a matter of calibrating based on your knowledge and understanding of where the child is at.
Yes. So every child is different. They have different temperaments, their character is different. So you need to know your child. But I would say most parents, whether you're working or not, we all try our best to have time with our children. So I would say parents, just try to talk to your child more often. Empathise with them, talk to them. And the best is to lead by example and show them that you love them and that it is okay to fail or make mistakes. And that you will always be there for them. So how you plant seeds may not necessarily be very direct. In fact, the converse is true. They don't like direct methods. They don't like instructional. They don't like being dictated what to do. So how you can do that is if you watch a TV program with them and then we're like, so I'll go, that girl, if only she told her parents what was going on, then all these things won't happen, Yeah, so we
I love the subtlety, Pam.
Yes, excellent, right? And especially when you're talking about other people, it's non-threatening and then they don't get their defenses up. Because once they get their defenses up, they stop listening.
That's true.
Yeah.
So use other people's mistakes to your own advantage.
Yes, yeah. So you go and watch drama serial, your K-drama and all that. Yeah, plenty of scenarios for you to talk about. So it's very gratifying when sometimes, I hear my children tell me, why he's so silly? He shouldn't have done that.
So that's like a sign of, wow, all those years of you teaching them has sort of really sunk in their hearts and minds.
Yes.
Such that they're able to actually tell you, what this person did wrong.
That's right. So as parents, I think we also need to have faith in ourselves, have faith in our child. In good time, the child will mature. Some children mature a bit later, some a bit earlier, and some in different ways. So not everybody is the same. So don't go around comparing with all your friends' children. Everybody grows at a different pace. We just need to be there for our children because we want to be the ones to be there if they make a mistake and they come to us first. We rather that happen than they take drastic measures and do other things, which we often see in drama serials.
Yes.
Right?
And something we totally want to avoid. Thank you so much, Pam, for sharing with us so many of your child stories today, and as well as your own experiences, guiding them and letting go and watching them fail and then just moving forward with them. Before I let you go, could you share with us what is the beauty of letting go? What is the end game and purpose of all this?
I think ultimately, as parents, our duty is to bring up our children to be able to survive on their own. Sometimes, as parents, we feel insecure. Oh no, I'm not needed anymore. But I think the best part of being parent is to see how our children turn out. And it is gratifying when we see that they can stand on their own, they are able to survive. That is a sign that we have done all we can as parents to bring up our children to become responsible adults, to become respectful, faithful adults who we can trust with doing the right thing. That is what we want. So at the end of the day, it is not how many A's they get in their exam. It's not how much money they earn. We all know of examples where somebody can do extremely well in their exams, but they are unhappy in their job. I think all we want as parents is that our children are happy. They are happy when they are well-balanced individuals who know their place in life. They know what they can do and cannot do, and they know that it's okay. Even if you don't do something well, you just learn and move on. You improve upon yourself, and you are there to help yourself and help others, and just be at peace with yourself. I think that is the most important. When you are depressed or you're upset or you're estranged from your family, what's the point of forcing your child to get straight A's, to memorize that 默写 and get top results in math and everything when their relationship with you is not good and they don't even want to see you or talk to you? But having said that, everything is a phase. There will be times when your child will give you a black face and don't want to talk to you. And it's actually normal.
Yes,
because
it's a normal part of teenhood, right?
Exactly, because nobody is in a good mood all the time, right? So we shouldn't expect our kids to be perfect when we ourselves aren't perfect. And so we have to be mindful and we have empathy for them.
Thank you so much, Pam. I love all your sharing today. I picked up tidbits for myself, put myself in my child's shoes, give them more room to fail. And even though they look like mature thinking adults, sometimes they may fail and they may function much like a child because they are still in the process of growing. But yet there's so much that we can look forward to, and we can have faith that all of our teaching and guidance will one day really help them to grow and to be their most responsible, most committed adult. So thank you once again. And to listeners out there, we really hope you have benefited and learned something from today's podcast. Do remember to share this podcast with a friend who might also be struggling to let go in this area of parenting. For more parenting resources, do visit our website at family.org.sg. And we hope you keep tuning in to ParentNet Podcast to learn and grow in your parenting journey.